Hello and good afternoon. I wanted to go ahead and let's read together. This is Patty Jo, by the way. I wanted to go ahead and read together some information from Bloomberg School of Public Health about safe streets. This is not an official report, but this is absolutely available to the public online. I will link in the comments below, and we can take a look at some of the things that they're saying. This is one of the most recent articles that cite the reports. The reports probably have a lot of dry statistics, not that this is going to be the most interesting article ever, but this is new report finds that Baltimore Community Violence Intervention Program Safe Streets reduces the violence with that particular weapon that we're trying to reduce. Safe Streets Baltimore is a community violence intervention program focused on reducing pew violence, gun violence. I don't know if that's okay to say. I'm still learning. Reduced non-fatal shootings overall in the implementation from 2007 to 22. There are 11, that's the second paragraph, 11 sites. It is showing a reduction of the most serious in four of the sites. In 6 of them, no reduction, and 23% non-fatal across the 11 sites. So that's not the 67% that was touted with that other, but again, these statistics are looking at those particular crimes and in those areas. And remember, on one of the other videos, we talked about the way this is structured. It is looking at this as if it is a disease process. So in other words, those areas would be included in a section, and that would be different from another section because the transmission and the actual etiology of the problem would be different from area to area. Okay, so moving on, the program was associated with reductions in homicide crimes in 8 of the 11 sites studied, with statistically significant reductions in Lower Park Heights, Cherry Hill, McElderley Park, which is one of the cornerstones. Cherry Hill and McElderley were cornerstones, and Penn North, which I had to chuckle a little because Penn North also has almost 24 hours a day, if not 24 hours a day, police cars with lights on all 4 of the corner sites all the time. I'm pretty sure that may have also had some sort of impact, but that's just me, my opinion. One site, Brooklyn, showed a statistically significant increase in homicides. Similarly, Safe Streets was associated with reduction in non-fatal of 8 of the 11 sites. So they kind of breeze over that. Brooklyn significantly going up. 4 had significant reductions: Lower Park Heights, Penn North, Woodbourne, McCabe, and Franklin Square. Okay, has significant increase, and one had increase, and that was Belvedere, and that's Upper West Side. That's near the Park Heights area, but a little bit different area. The report, and we'll go to that one later, was released on March 30th of this year. So community violence intervention programs like Safe Streets are designated to reduce violence in most impacted neighborhoods through outreach by credible messengers who work with individuals as at risk for involvement with that type of violence. The messengers mediate or interrupt the disputes that lead to the violence and refer program participants to social services and other supports to lower the risk. It's established 2007, currently operates in 10 neighborhoods, although it did say 11, have long experience structural racism, chronic disinvestment, and high rates of gun violence. Okay, it has taken an enormous toll on Baltimore, leaving communities traumatized and weakened. This incident in Brooklyn, on Brooklyn Days, absolutely endorses that 1,000%, in my opinion. Finding of this study show that when programs like Safe Streets are properly implemented and adequately funded, they can significantly reduce gun violence in most impacted neighborhoods. Okay, but again, they breeze over any kind of examples, and I am not saying I actually kind of agree with Mayor that some of these processes need to remain kind of not hidden, but veiled in a certain way. It's kind of like saying we don't want to show how inmates are moved because then inmates will know the weaknesses in that process. So, in other words, if I am one of the people who are going to go and mediate this, I need to be able to have some credibility with that person. I'm not going to turn you in. I'm not going to put everything out on the front porch. What I want to do is help you resolve these things without hurting people, without impacting your life negatively forever. And if they're going to do that, then some of the things that they are going to be able to do and say have to be private between those two. Now, does that mean that it's like a priest and somebody who confesses, or a medical professional and somebody else? I mean, I have got 1,000 stories from the medic that would be great examples of how to approach certain situations. But I have to be very careful in the way I present them because people deserve privacy. They call it HIPAA, but HIPAA really is about giving you information to be able to find the person based on not publicly exchanged information, such as your insurance, your address, your first and last name, something where somebody can really get hold of you. Now, if I told a story and I didn't use your first and last name, or I changed your information, that would not really fit that. But can we get an example of what an interaction would be, who they would be, maybe guided to? Would they be guided to social services? Are they stealing because and using a weapon because they don't have medical insurance? And what are these examples? What are these examples? What are you doing? How solid are these connections? Those are the questions, maybe to start with. Maybe they're not all the questions, but maybe to start with. As far as keeping these people's identities private, I have no opinion. I have no opinion on that. I don't want to know who they are. The one person that they cited in the news story, that had taken possibly taken drugs or admitted to taking drugs, or I don't even know, and then selling them or doing something with them for his own gain, and then admitted to that. And is he still an employee? You know what? More than half of the population of Baltimore at one point in time had been arrested or had a record of some sort. That if that makes you unemployable, then I wonder why we have an employment and underemployment and poverty issues and housing issues there. So if we're going to say that nobody's employable and then we're going to complain that none of them have jobs, I as a mostly conservative person, I'm wondering how I can make that argument out of both sides of my mouth. So what I'm saying is, I don't care who really is employed if they're qualified. If they're qualified to be that person, then they're qualified to be that interrupter or mediator or whatever. You have to have the person be qualified. They're offering them now training now, apparently. Let's move on. We went way down that rabbit hole, didn't we? I did anyway. The study analyzed monthly counts of homicides and non-fatal shootings across the 11 Safe Street sites over 19 years from 2003 to 22. So we are going to see the waves and so forth that we would expect to see, one would hope. Using the information from the Baltimore Police Department and the mayor's office. Okay, rolling my eyes. Of neighborhoods of Muncie. That's the Muncie Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And the reason why I rolled my eyes is the police department. Oh my gosh, I'm not sure. You know, they're so understaffed. The mayors historically in Baltimore, I think we can go back 5 or 6 of them, and probably I should, to see which one of them actually have convictions. You know, which ones have already paid their debt to society. Yeah, not really a lot of confidence there. Using advanced statistic modeling, the researchers estimated what would have happened. Okay, there we go. Here's my question. Advanced statistical modeling. Now, I think we all know what I think about statistics. 78% of them are made up on the spot. I made that one up just now. Yes. On what would have happened. Okay, so they project based on past performance in the city and with the crime, what would have happened. And, you know, the guys with the big brains, maybe they can do this. The analysis involved weighting data from comparison neighborhoods that did not implement the safe streets to minimize. So they compared them to non-safe street sites. Okay, I can understand that. And to predict the error in the trends for the violence in areas served by safe streets. So that gives you a little bit of the information of where this was all derived. Okay. Previous research in community violence intervention programs usually show favorable outcomes, but programs' effects can vary significantly across sites over time. Okay, so now we're getting into some real boring stuff. Okay, they're explaining the statistics, and this is where we usually glaze over, where I glaze over. The varied effects across the sites and over different time periods underscore the need for more research on the keys to effective implementation and conditions. So in other words, they're saying themselves that these statistics are largely speculative because there are strengths and weaknesses with these implementations, And we're all asking, well, what implementations? Where's the transparency? I really don't know that we need full transparency as much as we need to know what are these steps, and really, can we take even one type of intervention and with a connection to a service and see if that case by case maybe worked. Programs like Safe Streets are becoming a more integral part of public safety landscape. Fancy title. We need to better understand the complexities of violence dynamics and the best ways to support in doing the work. And I'm going to go back to one of the things that I've said for a long time when I was working with the fire department, after when I would help out in those communities in different other ways, and even now. Number one, we're looking at a very serious problem. But Baltimore is riddled with these problems. And they can't seem to do and implement even the most, in my observation, limited and opinionated as it is, they can't seem to do the most basic of functions. Pick up the trash. If you are living in an environment where trash is accumulating because collection is substandard and rats start accumulating, and you're now living like really so much as an animal, I wonder why you start behaving like that. You start throwing things on the ground, because what is the use of putting them in a trash can if that trash can is going to remain filled and uncollected for months? And I have seen it with my own eyes. Start with the basics. Maybe that's how you can employ some of these people. Maybe that's how some of this gets fixed. Cleaning up their, having some pride. They plan to follow up research with Safe Streets frontline workers, and now that this has happened, I'm sure that all of those things are very much skewed, because following up after a huge tragedy and a great, what is perceived to be a great failure, possibly is a great failure on their part. But I don't think this is one-legged failure. They didn't have enough police. Well, that happens every day. They don't have enough police every day. Now all of a sudden everyone's, what do you mean you didn't have enough officers to go in there and help those people? Well, that happens every day. Have we yet already forgotten that that is the same area, not far from there, just only a few short miles, really less, that that officer was ambushed and lost that battle? We're are we not making these connections? I just don't understand. Okay, the last line. Estimating the effects of Safe Streets in Baltimore on gun violence was written by Daniel Webster, Carla Tilchin, sorry, Carla, and Mitchell Duchette. So, funded by the mayor's office. The study was funded by the mayor's office. Amazing. Okay, so, there you go, where the money is. All right, so that is that article. Now we've covered that, we can deep dive into a few other things about it. Again, these are my opinions about some of the things that were said there. You can read it yourself. I will link it in the comments below. Comment, say, share, subscribe, like, whatever it is you think. Let's start a discussion that doesn't include a lot of politics, just looking at it objectively. Let's learn it objectively. Again, that is my humble opinion for education, and like I said, my opinion only. I would love to start a discussion on this so that I can learn more and have a little bit more of somebody else's viewpoint. Thank you and have a great and safe day.